This is a Mets here. For all your Mets here, let's go. Bring it home. Bring it home. Bring it home Make it happen. There's no stopping us now. We're gonna do it again. It's not a question of how. It's just a matter. It's just a matter. It's just a matter of
Hello again, everybody. Joe Piscopo, Shea Stadium. The big story. Mets 86. Exciting, thrilling, awesome. Let's take a look. We got the teamwork to make the dream work.
What's up, Met fans? Welcome back to Talking Mets here, Rob. And we are here live from Port St. Lucie, Florida, with my man Hayden. Mets Talk with Hayden here. What is up, guys? We are finally ready for baseball season. As you guys might know or might not know, tomorrow there is an intra-squad game with the Mets and the Mets. Orange and blue, most likely, that we're going to look into. We're going to do a live stream there as well in Port St. Lucie at Clover Park. It's going to be a lot of fun. Hayden, what is up, my friend?
What is going on? We have some history made. Rob and I are finally together. Obviously, last year, we unfortunately got a little screwed over with the lockout. And so obviously we are back better than ever in Port St. Lucie, my second home of the New York Mets. So, great to be here. Appreciate everyone for tuning in. We got baseball, a scrimmage game tomorrow. Rob and I are going to be there. And then, of course, the Saturday game, which will be the first spring training game. So I'm pumped. I love it. I love spring training, the close interactions, and all of that great stuff. So, super excited and LFGM.
Absolutely, guys. So don't forget, guys, to please hit on that like button. And also, if you're a new subscriber, say what up. Don't be shy, guys. And don't forget to subscribe to Hayden's channel as well. He will put your link there in the chat so everybody can click on it and become a subscriber to his channel. He is the man when it comes to analytics. That's the guy you want to go to. So, guys, we got a lot to talk about today. We got so much going on. For the most part, when it comes to the Mets, the roster, for the most part, position player-wise, is mostly set. We were talking while we were driving here, once I picked up Hayden, that who is the guy, the prospect that is going to make this team if there is going to be one of them? Is it going to be Vientos? Is it going to be Alvarez? Is it going to be Beatty? Or is it going to be a mystery? Is it going to be Mauricio that might shine out of nowhere and make this team? So we're going to start with that because spring training, games during the spring is all about guys that are a surprise. Somebody that we're not expecting to be good actually can be good and show what he can do to make the big league. So we're gonna make Hayden start with it. And let me know in the comments, guys, What do you think? Who do you think can make the team? Mauricio, Vientos, Alvarez, Beatty. So Hayden, between those guys, who do you think is going to be the one guy that can make the Major League roster?
Well, first I would like to say, everyone, subscribe to my YouTube channel if you have not already. It's free. Not many things in life are free, so definitely take advantage of that. But yeah, out of the three, you said Beatty, Mauricio, and Alvarez, you said?
Yep.
Well, as of the three, I think the most likely to make it is probably Beatty. I think right now, when it comes to Francisco Alvarez, as much as the hype he gets, as much as the favoritism he gets, don't get me wrong, he's definitely a great ball player by far. I appreciate you, man. But right now he's a catcher. And right now the Mets already have two catchers on the roster, and Omar Narvaez and, of course, Tomas Nido. So right now it's going to come to the point is if he's on the 26-man roster, if he's going to be at the MLB level, he's not going to be catching every day. Yep. And right now he's great offensively. He's known for his power, which is great. Don't get me wrong. He's 21 years old. My age, shockingly. I know I look like I'm 15, but whatever. And it's mind-boggling to think about. But I think overall what it comes to with Alvarez is I still want him working on his defense. He's a catcher. And, we live in a day and age where catcher's defense is very, very important. Mothman, you're coming into clutch, man. I may have to buy you like a drink or something. I love the hype. It make me feel happy today, man. Very long week. You got me off that. Okay, yeah. So Alvarez, yeah. As I was saying, Francisco Alvarez, like I said, he's a catcher. I want him working on that defense, and if he's at the MLB level, he's not going to be getting that everyday defensive work in. He still needs to work on his stuff. He's a great power. He still needs to work on stuff offensively. So I don't want him being this just DH and then he catches like one day out of the week. No, that's inadequate for any prospect who's trying to, especially a catcher. It's not like he's a third baseman or a center fielder. That's very important. So, when I think it comes down to it right now, I don't think Alvarez is going to start the season on the 26-man roster, 27, whatever. Probably start in AAA, get those reps defensively, even get the offensive reps. Why not? Maybe get called up May. You're going to need a backup catcher, a third backup, taxi squad. I'm sure there's going to be something going on with Narvaez or Nido or a doubleheader or a long weekend, whatever. So Alvarez, I have starting in AAA. I love Mauricio when it comes to Mauricio, but right now, I just think the amateur self of him and who he's being, essentially put up with. Mauricio has great power. I think he's one of the few prospects who is completely underrated. He does not get enough credit. I mean, he was demolishing. Was it the Dominican, the Winter League, whatever ball, whatever ball club it was that he was playing this past fall and winter, he was demolishing. But I just think right now, it also comes to the point is where would you put him? I get it offensively. Maybe you choose him as a DH. He's big. He doesn't have the body for third base. He gained a lot of weight. When the Mets picked him up, he was like 170, 180. The dude's 230 pounds now and 6'4". So big boy. I don't really think he's going to fit second base because I can't name any 6'4", 230-pound, second basemen. But yeah, third base doesn't have the body. Short, you got Lindor for the next 10 years. I've been a proponent of asking Mauricio to play, center field, outfield. He's young. He has the athleticism. He has the speed, in my opinion. So yeah, right now I would say he probably gets the start, probably in AAA. I wouldn't be surprised if he spends a little bit of time in AA. And I got to go Beatty making the MLB roster. I think right now I wouldn't be surprised if Beatty has a similar, we were talking about it before, a similar 2019 spring training like Alonso had, where he just goes off, goes to the opposite field, spreads the ball all over, shows some power. He's a guy who, he's not, huge guy, but he could hit for some good power. So I think, Beatty could definitely come into surprise, get that hard contact, get those line drives. Yep. We saw it, small sample size last year. He was hitting the ball hard, even on outs, even on ground outs, fly balls. He was hitting, he was hitting the ball 101 miles per hour to the shortstop. That's pretty good. Hit the ball hard, good things will happen. Defensively, I think he has room to improve. But when I think it comes to Beatty, is like I said, if it's June, if it's May, and Escobar is batting .210 with 7 home runs, well, you're going to want him, Mets fans are going to give, Escobar a hard time, and they're going to want to go after a guy like Brett Beatty. But out of all the guys that I think is going to make it, I'm going to go with Vientos. I know we didn't name him, but just because he's a sole DH, he's not going to play a position, and the Mets can maybe work with him as a DH.
He could take a rough spot.
Could take rough spot. He's going to be on a short lease.
Yep.
So spring training in April. So I think out of all those guys, I think I would say other, and that other is Brett, and that other is Mark Vientos.
Yeah, I kind of agree, and I know somebody put up with Buck, and that was what I was going to bring up about Vientos. Now, apparently Vientos was in the doghouse last year because what the Mets wanted him to do, I don't know if it was training, working out, certain things that he might have done offensively or with the bat, he didn't improve or do what he was supposed to do and put the work in last year, and that's why Buck put him in the doghouse. How many times last year during games when it was clear that Vientos should have been in the lineup and he wasn't, and Ruff was? And that just shows you that Buck is not just going to put you in because somebody else is struggling. If you're not doing the work, if you're not doing what they tell you to do, you shouldn't get playing time. You got to put the effort in. And Vientos, as Buck said in his in one of his press conferences, he said that he loves how Vientos came into spring. Whatever they told him to work on, he was working on. And I still believe that there's a pretty good chance Beatty's going to make the roster. And I told this to Hayden while we were in a car driving earlier today that because Eduardo Escobar is going to the WBC, that gives a lot more playing time for Brett Beatty in spring training for at least a couple of weeks. And that's where Beatty can shine. And if Beatty has a Pete Alonso spring training like Pete Alonso did in 2019, you give the Mets no choice but to bring up Brett Beatty. And that goes for Vientos too. Vientos is going to get a lot of playing time in spring. You're going to see Beatty and Vientos get a lot of playing time. I think it's going to come down to one of those two guys. The reason why I agree with Hayden when it comes to Vientos is because it's right-handed bat. And with the right-handed bat, that can replace Ruff. And with Beatty, that's another left-handed hitter that this team technically does not need. Even though Beatty, we think, is going to be very good at the big league level, Vientos might be more impactful right now, early on at least in the 2023 season, because of the fact we don't trust Ruff enough. Even though we have Tommy Pham, but he's in his mid-30s. So what are you going to get from him? So Vientos could be one of those X factors in the lineup where you might be looking for a little bit more power. You might be a little bit looking for more productivity from the DH spot. And Vientos, even though I know Vogelback has been practicing at first base and looked like could be the first base backup to Pete Alonso, Vientos can play third, could play first base as a backup, and Vientos can also play left field. So he's got a versatility as well that I like, and I think that's what Buck probably likes, because if you notice, what do the Mets have a lot of? Versatility. There's a lot of guys in this lineup that can play multiple positions, right? You can Escobar in a pinch can play second base. Right, Luis Guillorme can play all over the field. Mark Canha, we've seen him play right field. We've seen him play left field. We know Marte can play all three positions. Nimmo, if you really need him to, if you don't want him in center, you can play him in right and left. Everywhere, everybody except for like Pete Alonso, who can probably play third base in a real emergency. Everybody has versatility. And that's something that I think was the big reason why the Mets were so good last year, even though they fell apart at the end, was the versatility. They had so much room for improvement and productivity because of their versatility. And I think that's why Vientos could be on the verge of making this big league roster starting the 2023 season. So, yes, Vientos, we both agree that he probably has the best shot. One, because he's a right-hander. And two, I think the Mets like Vientos a lot, because I think that's the big reason why they didn't trade him at the deadline last year, because they did like him. They were just disappointed with the lack of work ethic and what they told him to do. He didn't do last year. Now he's doing. So look out for those two guys, Beatty and Vientos, who's going to get a lot of playing time in the first couple of weeks of spring training. So that's where we're going to start. We already started that with the prospects and who is going to make the team. So if there's one thing that we are looking forward to, besides the prospects, who are you looking forward to? And you guys can say it in the comments, who you're looking forward to seeing start in spring training. For me, and we'll get to Hayden in a second to see what he has to say, I'm really interested to see Jose Quintana. And I know that's like an outside-the-box type of player, but the reason why I think the X factor in this rotation is Jose Quintana. He is basically taking Taijuan Walker's spot in the rotation. And as good as Quintana was last year, prior to last year, he struggled. But he is a guy that can pitch innings. He can be the workhorse of this rotation. And if he pitches to like he did last year with the Cardinals, now you got a guy that can easily be a number 2 or a number 3, or most likely a number 3 in a lot of rotations. And that's why Quintana, I think, is the X factor and who I really like to see in spring training because he's got very nasty stuff. It's just a matter of can he harness it and do what he did last year with the Mets. So, Hayden, what do you think is a guy that you're looking forward to seeing in spring training?
I mean, obviously it's Pete Alonso and Jeff McNeil, but being realistic, I'm gonna go with a pitcher, and I'm gonna say it's kind of a toss-up between Tyler McGill and Joey Lucchesi. With Tyler McGill, it's complex with McGill because we've never really seen a full season of Tyler McGill. Saw him in 2021 in the second half. He played, a month's worth of all of last season. And then he came back in September, and he pretty much got rocked in that bullpen role, and it did not work out for him. So I think it's going to be interesting to see how McGill could settle back in, really taking theoretically a whole year off from baseball and trying to get back into a situation. Obviously, he's a guy who has dominated in the role. Obviously, keep in mind, he was the opening day starter last year. When Jacob deGrom went down, it was Tyler McGill, along with, Williams and Peterson to pick up his role. But McGill did it in 2021. And, of course, last year when he played a little. So, he's a big X factor for this team. I think a lot of Mets fans neglect him. There is going to be the question, is he going to be a starter? Is he going to be a number 6 starter? Is he going to be more of a depth guy? Is he going to be in a bullpen role? Tyler McGill is established to, Mets management and Mets coaching staff. He's not necessarily fond of playing in the bullpen. So that's going to be a question is, what are you going to do with McGill? If McGill comes into spring training and he's just pumping and dominating and, maybe you got like Carrasco, who's the 5th starter, is not looking too well. Maybe there's a scenario where, Carrasco and McGill switch spots a little bit. That would not be surprised. McGill, he's improved a lot mechanically this offseason. His velocity and his fastball has went up 2 miles per hour extra. From what I've seen on Twitter. So, I think McGill is going to be a big guy. And, of course, Joey Lucchesi, another guy in Tyler McGill's situation. Obviously had Tommy John in the middle of 2021 and just didn't pitch at all last year. So it's going to be interesting to see what he can come back and do. He's a nasty lefty, nasty pitches, the curve, the slutter. Nobody throws those besides him. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 other guys, but I can't even name them. I mean, his pitching is absolutely really phenomenal and can be nasty. Like I said, also another guy, probably your number 8 starter. I think probably McGill and Peterson have the upper hand on him. Maybe Lucchesi could have the upper hand on Peterson.
Elijah Hernandez also.
Considering Peterson could have trouble, with finding the strike zone and his command and walk. So, I wouldn't be surprised if Lucchesi's that number 1 lefty that they go after, if someone's out, if doubleheader, or, could be a long reliever. Let's say someone gets rocked and they get taken out the 3rd inning. Boom, maybe Lucchesi gives you 4, 5, 6, and then then you go to your bullpen. So I think Lucchesi is going to be another guy to keep an eye out for spring training. With his pitches, his health, and just what he can contribute to these teams. So honestly, I guess the depth starters and Tyler McGill and Joey Lucchesi, because they're going to be used. There's no way that Verlander and Scherzer, I'm knocking on wood, but there's no way that they're going to make all 31 starts this year. There's going to be delays, and regardless of injuries, there's going to be delays. There's going to be doubleheaders. Quintana may need a day off. Senga may need a day off. There could be a personal issue. You don't know. We don't live in the day where Corey Oswalt and Jared Eichhoff are taking them out anymore.
That's terrible.
So Joey Lucchesi, Tyler McGill are my 2 X factors for this season.
I see in the chat a lot of people are saying that they're very interested in Senga and that he could be the X factor. Very true. But I think every Mets fan is looking forward to seeing Senga. But we were talking about outside the box. like people you wouldn't think that you want to look at. That's why he had Tyler McGill and he had Joey Lucchesi. I had Quintana. So it's guys that are on the fringe. Like we know Jose Quintana is going to be in the rotation, but what if he struggles in spring and Tyler McGill and Joey Lucchesi look really good? Well, maybe they'll take his spot, and most likely not, but you never know. And that's something that we have to look at when you think about outside the box. Because every year in spring training, there's one guy that is the star of spring training that everybody's talking about. And it could be anybody, could it be Mauricio? Could it be McGill that shows that last year early on, it wasn't a fluke? And the same thing with David Peterson. What if David Peterson, finally figures out that walk issues that he has and finds a strike zone? And we know we got really good stuff. So many different ways. And the big thing that the Mets didn't really have last year was a lot of starting pitching depth that they trust. Right? They made that trade early on in the offseason. They got Eliza Hernandez, who is another guy that can be in the back end of the rotation or a long reliever. And, you got Peterson, you got McGill. And who knows, you got Jose Butto, even though a lot of people don't necessarily like him, you're going to see him on the opening day of spring training in the second game, the home opener in Port St. Lucie. So you're going to see Jose Butto early. And you got to remember, guys, there's 2 games on Saturday. There's an away game and there's a home game that Me Hayden are attending with the 7 line. So you're going to see Jose Butto that day. So there's a lot of pitching depth that the Mets can look forward to. But as we all know, that depth is going to come into the mix at some point during the season. Like Hayden said, doubleheaders, rainouts. It could be any reason whatsoever. Somebody gets hurt. So you're going to be using that pitcher depth. So when you're 7, 8, 9 pitchers deep in your rotation at any given moment, that's something that you always need. And I think last year, because Jacob deGrom didn't start the season, Scherzer went down for 6 weeks. Remember, even Walker with his back, he missed a start or 2. And Carrasco missed a week. There was so many different times. Like the only guy that was basically durable was Chris Bassett. And, when you got the rotation with Verlander, Scherzer, and Senga at the top of your rotation, you got 2 old guys that are still dominant, and also Senga, who's never pitched more than 140 innings in his career in Japan. So each one of those guys, you have to watch their innings. So there might be times where they might skip a Scherzer start and put Tyler McGill in there or Eliza Hernandez or David Peterson to give him a day or give him a start off so you can save those bullets for later on in the season. So it's something to actually really look at. And that's why the Mets and a lot of people are not really sure what this team is. Can this team be a 100-win team? A lot of people could say yes. Can you see this team being an 85-win team? Well, a lot's got to go wrong, like injuries, which, let's be honest, with an older rotation, which the Mets have one of the oldest rotation. I think it is the oldest rotation in baseball. You have to be concerned about that because you get 1 or 2 guys that go down that are really important to your rotation. The Mets are in trouble because they can't bash runs together 5, 6, 7 a game like some teams who are home run type teams. We're not going to be able to score that many runs. We still are pitching focused. And if the Mets have problems pitching in their rotation when it comes to injuries or just not quality starts, we might be in trouble because this lineup, obviously very similar to last year, scored 4.75 runs per game. So the rotation's got to be watched, especially the top 3. And where are we getting that power from? I think we talked about that as well. Is Vogelback having him a full year? Could he get 16 to 20 home runs? Can Ruff actually show he can play baseball anymore and maybe get a couple of home runs? Escobar had a down year last year, hit 20 home runs. He's a 25, 26 home run guy on average. So as I've been saying, that we can actually add 30 to 35 home runs with the lack of production we got from third base, catcher, and DH could be a huge difference. So I just cut off Hayden. So Hayden, what are you gonna say about all that?
one thing I briefly wanted to mention. Sorry, I was looking at the TV. One thing I wanted to mention is, we talk about power, and obviously, like I said, right now the Mets' power. The main guy you think of is Pete Alonso. He can give you, 35 to 45 home runs, probably likely this season. Behind that, you're hoping Lindor can give you 20, 25. Is Escobar, what type of season is Escobar going to have? Is he going to, be this great number 5 hitter that a lot of Mets fans hope to see? McNeil and Nimmo are great hitters, but their goal is not for power. They're contact oriented and, extra base hit guys. So you're not going to, maybe you'll get like 10 from them. But two interesting guys that I'd like to keep an eye out on is Mark Canha and Daniel Vogelbach.
Yep.
I know Mark Canha, like I said, high OBP guy, not really a big home run hitter. Last season, if someone wants to look it up and put it in the comment section, please do. He probably had 10, 12, maybe just about. Someone could comment, that'd be great. But he took this offseason. He's trying to fix up his swing a little bit. I don't know if he was lifting, doing new workouts or whatever, but he was trying to hope that he could be a little bit more of a power hitter and maybe hit 10 or so extra home runs. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But Vogelbach is an interesting guy, and you guys are probably not going to like this comparison that I use, but I'm going to use it anyway. So Daniel Vogelbach lost 20 to 25 pounds according to him. I want to look at Vladimir Guerrero Jr. In 2019, he made his debut, and then obviously 2020 he played adequate numbers, nothing too crazy. He wasn't bad, he wasn't good. He entered 2021, dropped, but it's significant amount, 20 to 25, 30 pounds. What happened to him that season? He went on a tear, 48 home runs, probably finished second or third MVP, something around those lines. I'm not saying Vogelbach's going to do that, but I think, people say, oh, the fatter and bigger you are, the more home runs you hit. It doesn't work like that. It does not work like that. Me, who's 5'9", 160 pounds. Altuve could probably hit 25. Size doesn't matter. Yeah. But the point that I'm trying to make is if it gets him in shape, it helps up his swing. So I think it's going to be a big, interesting part. I look at Vogelbach, I look at Canha. I think those are going to be two interesting power backs to keep an eye out for this season. Like I said, McNeil, Nimmo, not so much. Alonso, of course. Maybe Marte can give you 15. Why not? He's good for his speed, so definitely try and take advantage of that. But like I said, catcher position, Narvaez, Nito's probably going to give you, 2 home runs? Something around those lines.
Narvaez can be interesting.
Yeah, Narvaez can. I haven't really looked at his power metrics and, how many, home runs he's hit in the past.
Odd years. Like he would hit 15 home runs and next year hit 2. So what are we getting in? Could we get 10 home runs from him? I'll take it. To be honest.
Yeah.
I was looking at the comments. They're kind of interesting, but third base speed and defense. What do you mean towards speed though?
I think just overall athleticism. I will say.
Escobar's not a butcher though.
Listen, he's not the best. Maybe you would give the upper hand at Beatty just because he may be a little bit more athletic. He's younger, but I will say for the most part, Escobar probably has the upper hand to defense than Beatty. I definitely think third base is a position where it needs to be addressed. It needs to be just talked about. And like I said, you also have Luis Guillorme as an option too.
And that's why Beatty's so much of an option. If he plays well in spring training, it's going to be a totally different, ball game. Escobar can be the DH, or at least the right-handed part of DH. He can platoon with Vogelbach. If the Mets really think that if Beatty shows up and does what he's supposed to do, everybody expect him to do that. You never know. It is something to think about, though. Do you think we can get 30 to 35 home runs more from this lineup? Currently constructed?
Yeah, right now, Robert just asked, and I know this kind of ties into the question I was just asked. I think Alonso is probably going to give you 40. Yeah. I think he'll stick with 40. Last year, he had 40 on the dot. I think maybe 41.
41? Yeah.
And I think that's a good number. I think Alonso's going to have times where, he's going the opposite way for base hits and doubles up the gap like we saw a lot last year. So I think Alonso's going to have, those weeks where he's doing that and then the weeks where he's hitting, 4 home runs a week. Yeah. So I think Alonso's going to give you 40. But yeah, I definitely think maybe, a guy like Vogelbach could give you maybe a dozen extra than you hope for. Maybe Canna can give you 5 or 10 extra. 30 home runs extra, maybe. I want to say, I think, and don't quote me on, I think the Mets hit 171 home runs last year. Do I think this is a team that is capable of hitting, 200, 210, which would probably be number 1, number 2, number 3 in the league? Maybe. I think it's possible. I think, like I said, if Canna could give you 10 more and Vogelbach could go on a power tear, Vogelbach's capable of it.
Yeah.
He hit 30 home runs, just 2-3 years ago?
2-3 years ago, yeah. So
I think Vogelbach, if he does something, keep an eye out. And then, of course, keep an eye on if Vientos, if Alvarez, Beatty. Those could be some interesting characters.
Yeah, Joe, I don't have the shoes on, but I got them with me.
Yeah.
The ones, yeah.
Those,
I showed Hayden
those
today.
are fire. I said those are pretty clean.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? Listen, somebody brought up with Beatty too. You could see him between 15 and 20 home runs. If you're going to replace Beatty with Escobar at third base, you're not gaining power numbers from that at all. And, I think Vogelbach, remember, Vogelbach hit, 6 home runs last year with the Mets? He averages, 15, 16 home runs a year, except for that 30 home run year. But even if he gives us between 16 and 20, I put a poll up, I think, a week ago. How many home runs do you expect Vogelbach to hit? And I gave a range, 4 different ranges. And 16 to 20,
I like that.
A lot of people, yeah. I will definitely buy Hayden the beer. For sure.
I'm looking forward to the rum buckets.
Yeah, the rum buckets. Yes, and we will. By the way, we will be live streaming at certain times during tomorrow's inter-squad game tomorrow, and also Saturday's game as well. So make sure you tune in. We might about 12:30, 1 o'clock, right before the game starts.
I believe it's 12:30. Yeah, we'll be vlogging it. If you guys are there, come out and say hi.
Come out, have fun.
We're gonna ask some fans questions, Mets questions, trivia questions.
Correct.
We may be vlogging it potentially. So if you're there, definitely pull up. Message us on Twitter or Instagram or whatever social media source.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, oh yeah, yeah. Them rum buckets. Yeah, Joe, I know. Trust me, they're sweet, but you know what? They kick your ass. I ain't gonna lie about that. But listen, Todd, I understand you're talking about Ohtani. Me and Hayden talk about this. We hate those comments. Not personally, because you said it. Just because Ohtani or Machado, it's pointless to talk about. I don't think Ohtani is going to get traded at the deadline. The Angels would have to be completely out of it, 100% out of it by the deadline. If they have a hope with the extra teams in the playoffs, with the wild card teams, if they have a little bit of hope, they're not trading Ohtani. And so it's pointless to worry about 2023 when it comes to Machado or Ohtani. Worry about the guys that are on our team. Like, all the home runs that we possibly can get. Remember, guys, third base, catcher, DH. Besides Escobar, I think a grand total with catcher and DH. And we have multiple guys from catcher, Nito and McCann. We had, Davis, Smith, Vogelbach, and Ruff as DH. I don't even really count Cano, but let's add them. Yeah. How many home runs was that? 12? 10? Maybe? If we're lucky. And that's adding Vogelbach 6 home runs at the deadline. That's ridiculous. That can't happen. You can't have a DH spot that gives you 6 home runs. You're not going to win that way. We won 101 games, yes. But look how we won a lot of those games. It was a lot of pitching. A lot of pitching. If we add that pitching, that solid pitching, and add 30 home runs to this lineup, maybe 35, which, let's be honest, we should easily get. If everybody that we expect to hit home runs, and the guys that, Escobar hit 20 home runs. Escobar can easily hit 25 home runs. So that's 5 home runs added to the lineup. Vogelbach, you added 10 more home runs to his 6. Let's say he averages 16. That is 10 more home runs that we had last year from the DH spot alone. If Ruff hits 2 home runs, that's 2 home runs we didn't get last year. And with catcher, I do think between Nito and Alvarez, I do think we can hit 10 home runs from them. And what did we hit? A grand total of 3 last year from the catcher position? It's hard to win that way when 7 through 9 was basically a waste of time. And, 1 through 6 was doing their job, but 7 through 9 was just absolutely terrible. And, you know, we might as well put the pitchers out there to hit. And, you know, who knows? They might run into one. So that's something that we're really going to have to focus in on. But it also depends on who's going to be that last spot on the roster, because that can mean a lot of difference. Some people think Beatty can hit 15 to 20. That's a big difference. You know, if Vientos is a guy, I mean, we don't really know the power of Vientos. We see it in the minor leagues. I mean, realistically, how many home runs do you think Vientos could hit in the big leagues if he's the everyday DH?
Yeah, I mean, Vientos has good pop. He has good power metrics. I want to say last year he hit one. I believe, and it was in Oakland too, which is not
opposite field. Too,
yeah, not an easy ballpark to do. I mean, it was against the nobody pitcher. No offense, but you know, still something, you know, not easy to do. You know, I think if Vientos stays consistent, you know, listen, I'm not, you know, if Vientos could put up the average in OBP and the OPS of what he would typically in AAA, so maybe a 270 average, 275 average with the, you know, 350 OBP. He's not this high on base percentage guy with maybe a 830 OPS, just grain of salt. I realistically think that Vientos could probably give you 25. Maybe 20, 25.
That's interesting.
I think he can. I think a lot of his goal is really that launch angle swing. And I definitely think, like I said, coming that summer when it's humid out, thick air, I think he could definitely pull one.
Yeah.
And just, pimp one into the stands. So, yeah, I'd probably say like 20, maybe 25 being generous. Which, I mean, listen, that's much better than last year.
Yeah. So, Vientos could hit 20 home runs. I mean, I think they consider him a power bat. I mean, not Alvarez power bat, but like an Escobar type of power bat. I'll take it. But, it's going to come down to who is going to be the one that gets that roster spot. And, at the end of the day, Buck might just go with the veterans early on. And, Buck did that last year. He went a lot with the veterans until he had no choice when injuries happened. That's why Beatty played. That's why Vientos played. And Alvarez came up because the Mets were desperate for offense, and they put him up at the worst possible time. So, yeah, I could see that. Any one of these guys, Beatty, Vientos, and Alvarez, clearly, I think can all easily hit 20 home runs. That's if they play every day. And that's the other problem. If you bring them up to the big leagues, if they don't play every day, you're wasting them. That's why I think there's probably more of a reason why they might all start in the minors, either AAA or AA, depending on where they are. So it's something that you have to look at. That's why, Tommy Pham was signed by the Mets. That's why Ruff is still on this freaking team. And they're trusting Vogelbach to be the big DH in this lineup because he's going to bat a lot more than a lot of the righties because there's more right-handed pitchers than left-handed pitchers. So Vogelbach's going to get a lot more at-bats. So if Vientos gets that other roster spot, he's going to platoon most likely with Vogelbach. So how many at-bats is Vientos going to get? Hopefully, we get – like last year, we had 4 lefties in a row in Oakland, and Ruff started in every one of those games. Can't have that. So Vientos 20 home runs, I like that number. I think he can do that. He didn't show it last year, but you saw – I mean, Oakland's not a small ballpark at all. And he had an Oppo taco.
And he had some hard, and even when he had some hard doubles hit,
correct, yeah,
down, up the line and into the gap. Like I said with Beatty, even a lot of his outs were hit pretty hard. A lot of hard hit ground balls and line drives and pop flies. So they have power. Yeah. And if you're hitting the ball hard, eventually it's gonna start hitting the grass and the bleachers.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And you know what? I know who's putting some. Alvarez doesn't have an arm yet. I mean, he got an arm. The problem is defensively working with pitchers. There's still a lot there because if he was ready to go, he would be the starting catcher. Alvarez wouldn't be on this team. So that's something you have to look at as well. So there is a lot to look at when it comes to that. I have a problem with Alvarez being the overall number 1 prospect in baseball, and I spoke about this with Hayden earlier today. I don't see how a guy can be a number 1 overall prospect in baseball, yet he is still very raw defensively, and I mean extremely raw. I mean, Kevin Parada, who the Mets drafted last year, is considerably better defensively already to Francisco Alvarez. And the only reason why Alvarez is so high on that list and number 1, now number 3 on MLB's top prospects is because of his bat. Well, if that's the case, and Alvarez never is a good enough catcher to be an everyday catcher for the Mets, he's going to be a glorified DH. Is he going to be an Edgar Martinez, a David Ortiz type? I don't mind that, but you have to know at some point, sooner or later, if you realize this guy can't catch, just make him your everyday DH, and hopefully he gives you 30 to 35 home runs. Because if not, he would be a bust. And I already said this numerous times, and Hayden knows this. I think Kevin Parada is going to be a better overall player defensively and offensively combined than Francisco Alvarez. I don't think Francisco Alvarez is going to hit for average. I think pushing 240 is probably a year average-wise. Power is power. He's probably going to hit 30 home runs. But the average is where I'm going to be concerned about. Anything less 240 is concerning me because that's probably going to lead to a lot of strikeouts as well. So that's what I worry about. Is it delayed a little bit?
It's just the internet.
Okay. All right. So, so that's where I am with Alvarez. No, Aaron, I agree with you. I know he's 21 years old, but you put him as the number 1 overall prospect in baseball, and he's not even good enough to make the major leagues yet because of his defense. And that's a concern, because do we know he's going to get better defensively? We don't know. We're hoping he is because, well, let's be honest, we kind of need him. How nice would that bat be every day in a lineup protecting Pete Alonso? So that's something that you have to look at. Hold on one second, Aaron. Let me just see something. Catcher. Look, it's not about Alvarez being a top 3 catcher, top 1 catcher. That's not the point. The point is the fact that if he's hitting 30 home runs, but he hits 215, does that really help this team? I mean, does it? Because he's either going to be a home run or a strikeout. And that might help us, and it might not. I mean, I don't know, Hayden. What do you think? What do you see from Alvarez? Do you see him being an average guy? Because anything under 240 scares me a lot.
Yeah, I mean, right now it's really tough to tell. I mean, can you pull up his metrics from A-ball and compare his average?
Yep.
Like I said, I mean, last year I don't care what his numbers were last year because he literally played like 5 games. So I'm not using it against him or for him or even for Beatty or Vientos or any other prospect that plays that amount of games. Like I said, when it comes to him offensively, there's no doubt that he has power. This guy is capable of, hitting 30 to 40 home runs. Heck, I could even see him hitting 52, 53 one year. Anything's possible. I think the power, the slugging is no doubt in my mind. Typically power hitters don't usually hit for a high average. Like this year, or last year you saw Judge at 62 and he batted like 313. You don't see that a lot. A lot of power hitters you see, Alonso, he hit 40. He batted, 260, 265. He had a couple times where he was getting a lot of doubles down the line in the opposite field. Okay. And if Alvarez is capable of doing that, is capable of, being able to position himself and swing that way where he's able to put the ball, in between the second baseman and first baseman and put it all the way, to the warning track, then that could definitely help out his average. You look at his numbers when it comes to average, in terms of, the minor leagues. And you look at 2022, obviously in AAA, he batted 260, and for AAA, that's I would say pretty decent considering he really was rushed up from AA to AAA. So like I said, I think it's really too early to tell what Alvarez's average could be. I'm a person who thinks batting average is stupid. I like the more advanced metrics. I talk to me about on-base percentage and OPS instead. If you want to talk to me about WOBA and WRC plus, more than welcome. I can care less about average, but just keeping it on this. Yeah, it's too early to tell. I could see Alvarez, batting 260. I could see him batting 270. I could see him batting 240. I mean, really anything's possible. It's really too early to tell. But I could see so. Like I said, power hitters don't usually hit, like 300. You don't see it a lot, but anything's possible.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we don't. Alvarez can bat. He hit 270 in the minors, 260. He can come up to the majors and bat 210. Like we see 300 hitters in the minors, bat 210 and never amount to anything. So we don't know. The one thing we're gonna see is that we know how Major League Baseball works, right? When the hitters come up, the pitchers don't really know how to pitch to them for the most part. So the batter usually has the advantage. But once they see him for, say, about 30, 40 at-bats, now they got a book on him, and then they start, pitching him a certain way, and the batter now has to adjust. And if he doesn't adjust, well, guess what? You're going to be a bust most likely. So it is a lot to when it comes to Alvarez. Again, I don't think the one thing that I think we all agree on, Alvarez is going to hit home runs. Like that's like a no-brainer. Even if he is a 210 hitter, there is a pretty good chance he's going to hit 25 to 30 home runs, probably easily. So it is going to come down to the defensive metrics at that point. Is he going to be good enough defensively to warrant the bat in the lineup? Because Gary Sanchez with the Yankees, he came out on fire. And then slowly but surely his defense has gotten worse and worse and worse. It never really got better. And then his offense started to slack. And then he was a useless player. Now, I'm not going to compare Alvarez, to Sanchez, because that's not fair to Alvarez. Sanchez is garbage. And Alvarez, we just don't know yet. So we'll just have to wait and see.
With Sanchez?
No, Gary.
Oh, yeah. My fault. I had brain fart.
Yeah. So, yeah, exactly, Todd. Look, Parada was the number 1 overall catching college player in college coming into the draft. The Mets got him. The Mets are not taking a college catcher that was rated number 1 out of all the catchers in college if there wasn't some concerns about Francisco Alvarez's defensive abilities. Because just because he's 21 years old, the Mets had him since when he was, 17? So it's 4 years now that they have been working with him. I don't care if he is 17 or 21. If you play baseball, you can get better over time, absolutely. But at some point, there's certain things you're just never going to be as good at. It's just how it is. Professional, college, high school, there's a certain point where you're just not going to have the capabilities of doing that. Not saying he's not trying, not saying he's not working hard, but every player has a limit. And for all we know, the limit might be where Alvarez is now. Are the Mets going to trust that, say, next year defensively every single day? I don't know. I really don't know. But it's a very interesting Aaron Sanchez was a lazy bastard. That's true. That's absolutely, and I don't think Alvarez is anywhere near. He works hard a lot. So I think that's something that we have to look at with Alvarez. Can he get better? Yes. But sooner or later he has to show it, because sooner or later the Mets are going to have to bring him up and make him the starting catcher. Because if they don't believe in him defensively, then you're wasting his bat that we could be using at the big league level, wasting our time in the defensive reasonings of why he's still in the minor leagues. Because that's the only reason why he's in the minor leagues right now. And if he was a little bit better, he might be the starting catcher for the 2023 season. Right now, he's not. That's why they gave Alvarez. I think it's a 2-year deal with an option, right?
Yes. Yeah, 2 years, and I think a 3-year option.
So they're counting on Alvarez coming up next year, I think.
Narvaez is pretty much a placeholder. He's pretty much what James McCann should have been, even though, you would have McCann for the next 2 years. But that's pretty much Narvaez's job, to be that James McCann 2.0, to be a placeholder. Obviously, I think it'll be better than McCann, but just to put it out in the air.
Narvaez is going to be better, but we have to wait. There's so many, I wouldn't say question marks, but it's very curious, I guess you could say, what to look at, because there's a lot of players that are going to be on this team that can go either way. It can be really bad or really good. And, catching is one of them. We don't know what Alvarez is going to be. He has a track record of 1 year good, 1 year bad. And that goes for a couple of other players as well. Canna, you can see about 12 to 13 home runs, but he actually put on muscle this year because he said he wants to hit more home runs. So what if he hits 20 home runs? Now this lineup looks a hell of a lot better. WBC commercial. That's nice. That's going to be fun.
That's what they should. Yeah, we have MLB Network on the hotel over here. That's why I was looking. They're doing the top 100, and they're down to the last two. It's either going to be Judge or Ohtani.
Of course.
Probably going to be Judge 2, Ohtani 1.
Of course.
Obviously, Trout's number 3. My boy Big Meat Pete Alonso is number 31.
31? That's ridiculous.
Yeah, I honestly thought he could have been like 24, 25.
He should be at least in the top 20.
I mean, I think they had him as – obviously it's kind of hard because it's like Freeman and Goldie, I think, have the upper hand.
Yeah, but
I don't know if necessarily Vlad is better than Alonso.
Not yet.
I would say not yet. So, yeah, this is all popularity contest anyways. They just take half this from their behind and put it on TV.
Oh, the Andre Dawson Classic, some college games.
Yeah, college baseball is here. I actually like, not to get off topic, but I do love college baseball. Obviously, I go to Stetson University, the same school DeGrom and Kluber and Gilbert and Mazika went to. But, it's a D1 school, which is, interesting considering it's a small private school with 3,000 kids. But, yeah, I went to the Stetson versus Manhattan game 1 when they won 17-0. So that was a very interesting, good game. But yeah, actually, I'm starting to get more into college baseball. It's also good with, prospects in the farm system. I like the farm and prospects. I think it is going to be a lit year. Expanded playoffs.
I like it, actually.
It's only 2 extra teams. It's not like it's how it was in 2020. So Judge is number 2, Ohtani's number 1.
Yep.
Makes sense.
So, yeah, right wing, listen. When it comes to the expanded playoffs, what if the Mets were in the Phillies spot in the wild card, which was the 3rd wild card team, which in 2021 would have never happened. Their run would have never happened because they would have missed the playoffs. What if the Mets went on that run like the Phillies last year as the 3rd wild card team? I don't think we would have been talking about it not being good as 40% make playoffs. It brings excitement to a fan base that would have not been in the playoffs if the 2 teams of the wild card would have still existed instead of 3. I see it this way. It puts more teams, or at least the fan bases, have hope, a lot more of them, that their team can make the playoffs. You wouldn't want at least one series, even if it's a wild card series, in the playoffs? What if the Mets became the 3rd wild card team? Would you not turn on the playoff games because they're the 3rd wild card team and you don't like it? No, you'll watch it. I see it this way. You can dislike it, but you can also understand why they're doing it, right? They're doing it, yes, money purposes, more ticket sales and everything like that, but you're also having, like, look at last year. The NL wild card, it basically came down to the last couple of games, or last week of the season, between Philly and I think it was the Brewers.
The Brewers, it was pretty much the Brewers and Phillies were kind of fighting for that 3rd place wild card.
And they also played at the end of the year, too.
Yeah.
So that's something that, I like it. Yes, there's going to be a time when there's, a team. But, again, the Phillies won, 87 games last year? 88? Yeah, 87 games last year. But they made the World Series. They're a 500 team basically the whole year. And they went on a run. Can you get mad at that? Because let's be honest, guys, in 2015, the Mets won the division because the Nationals fell apart and the Mets took over the division, right? They weren't the greatest team in the world, right? They were an average team before the Cespedes deal. Yet we went on that run. Even though that was a division winner, it wasn't like we won 97 games. So I think the expanded playoffs is going to help teams like the Mets if they struggle a little bit and maybe have a we lost. There we go. Okay, the schedule in April is very, very tough, and you just never know how it's going to turn out. We might need that third wild card team, that third wild card seed, and if it makes us the playoffs, we might be the team to make the run in the playoffs. Roberto, I got you right now. Thank you for the super chat. Hello, guys. What do you guys think about Quintana? I believe he can be a good pitcher for the Mets and their rotation. Roberto, I know you just popped on not too long ago. We did talk about Quintana, and I called him the X Factor, the guy I'm looking forward to seeing in spring training. We both picked the guy. Hayden picked too. But that's something that I think he's going to be good. If he's got really good stuff. If he can duplicate what he did with the Cardinals, the Mets rotation is going to be extremely good. Of course, health is going to be the big factor, but I think Quintana is going to be the X factor for sure, Roberto. So thank you for the super chat, buddy. All right, guys, so we're going to run it down for the next couple of minutes. We're going to end it at 9. John, what up, buddy? I know you're a Philly fan. I know. Let's take a Phillies question. Why not? Right? Yeah, why not? Phillies are loaded this year. We learned a lot from last year, and we went out and got some players and brought up a 3 ace in Painter. Well, yeah, that's one of your top prospects. He's got a strong arm. You're going to see in a big game situation, or at least in the regular season, those type of young guys, tend to struggle with control and walk a lot of batters, and that's something that. But they do have a better rotation. Like, it's hard to say they don't. Like, I'm not a big fan of Nola. I think Nola chokes more often than not. Wheeler's your ace. I like Wheeler, obviously. Painter is going to be an X factor for you guys. I don't like Taijuan Walker in a Philly uniform because of the small ballpark in Citizens Bank Park. That's an issue. Yeah. Because if you watch Taijuan Walker on every fifth-day basis like Met fans did, Philly fans are going to look at the stats. Stats are very nice. But if you take a step back and look at the games as on an every fifth-day basis, Taijuan Walker gave a lot of long fly balls, deep long fly balls that were caught at warning tracks that would easily be 3, 4, 5 rows deep at Citizens Bank Park. That will definitely increase his ERA to a 3.7, 3.8, maybe near a 4. He'll throw his gems, but he is the guy that needs a bigger ballpark. You're going to see that even though he will pitch his gems, he will struggle in keeping the ball in the ballpark. And, yeah, look, you got Turner, right? You made that – you got Gregory Soto from the Tigers. That was a nice trade. You got to bolster that bullpen. They're really, really solid. They're loaded, let's be honest. But they're also going to miss Harper for what? Couple of months out of the season. That's a big deal, right? They barely recovered last year from that. You could say the Girardi firing was the big reason, or was it Harper coming back? I mean, you could say it's probably more Girardi, but let's be honest, that's a bat in the middle of their lineup they really needed because they struggled. And let's be honest, the defense was one of the reasons as well. So Philly's going to have an interesting year. I mean, it's tough right now at that NL East. I mean, the Braves didn't really do much to increase their benefits for the season. And the Phillies have really only gotten better. I think bringing in Trey Turner was a huge move for them. I mean, right now, Trey Turner is, he offers a lot. He offers defense. Obviously, the Phillies were a pretty bad defensive team last year. Yeah. I mean, obviously at shortstop, Didi Gregorius just got so awful that they just sent him down, and you guys called up Bryson Stott. I think Bryson Stott is going to have a phenomenal breakout season. I'll probably play second base. I think he's my breakout candidate for, the Philadelphia Phillies. I think he'll have a great year. Tore it up in the second half. I know he got sent down a couple times, but tore it up in the second half big time. So I think he'll have a good year. But Trey Turner brings a lot. Defensively, and he's a table setter. We saw a lot last year, the Phillies, especially in the World Series. Solo home runs. Schwarber gave you 46 home runs. How many of those were solo shots? They couldn't get on
playoffs. Harper was hitting a solo home run. Schwarber was hitting a solo home run. Castellanos, all solo shots. You bring in Turner, table setter. And that's the issue. The fact is the Phillies were leading off Kyle Schwarber. And I get the mentality that it may be decent to have somewhat of a guy. Schwarber, he's only gonna walk, strike out, or hit a home run. So I guess you got a 50% chance, 45% chance, of him getting on base or helping score a run. I haven't looked at his WRC plus or the scoring metrics, but yeah, I definitely think Turner is going to be huge for them. Like I said, the Phillies, you got Trey Turner offensively, unless there's any other big offensive moves I forgot. So that's that. But pitching wise, I think they definitely bolster their bullpen, bringing in Gregory Soto. I kind of like Sir Anthony Dominguez a little bit better as a closer, but we'll see how that goes. Relievers are streaky. They're guys that you have to look at annually, so we'll see how that goes.
They also have control issues.
Yes, and that's where for example, a guy like Jose Alvarado, he is a guy who will walk the ballpark and blow the Phillies World Series. No, but that's not relevant. But yeah, Phillies, they're in an interesting spot. Their bullpen got bolstered, and you saw how important bullpens are. 2 years ago, they were one of the worst teams when it came to their bullpen. Now, listen, I don't think they're, top one, top two, but I definitely think they have a pretty solid bullpen. They're 1, 2, 3 rotation. Obviously, so Ranger Suarez, obviously Andrew Painter, he's going to have an interesting year to see what he could do. So, it's going to be a good year. Obviously, Alec Boehm, Bryson Stott, two guys that I think are really going to continue to break out this season. You got Trey Turner. I guess the only, inadequate thing for the Phillies is going to be that you will not have Bryce Harper probably, until just about the second half. But hey, you didn't have him for, really the beginning of the first half, and you managed to play well. So, we'll see how it goes. I do worry with them defensively too. Still, outfield wise, Castellanos is trash defensively. Schwarber is, if there was anything worse than trash, I would say that word. And then that's really where I do worry. I was watching a lot of, Mets Phillies games, and I saw a lot of plays where Schwarber would just bump into the wall, and him and Abdul Herrera banging into each other, and I'm just
it's
So yeah, right now I think it's gonna come down to the outfield defense. And really, like I said, the Phillies, they're going to be an interesting team. I could easily see them coming in and, finishing in second. I could see them, anything's possible right now in the NL East, considering the Braves have really, they didn't really do much.
I think the Braves are a third place team.
Yeah, we'll see more.
Because listen, at least the Mets and the Phillies, they did things to better their team, right? The Mets kept their lineup the same for the most part, right? But they bolstered their bullpen. I do think the rotation, what they add, especially Verlander, is going to pitch more than Jacob deGrom, so that's already a plus. The Mets and the Phillies upgraded, and the Braves lost Swanson. Nobody wants to talk about. We talked about that before we went live about Grissom, the guy that they're replacing him for Swanson, and if he's not going to be better or at least the same as Swanson offensively and defensively, that's another huge loss that nobody's talking about. Yeah, they got Murphy, but if you look at Murphy's offensive numbers, they're very similar to Travis d'Arnaud's. So all they're gaining there is the defense. And now with the bigger bases and the lack of pickoff moves that are allowed, there's going to be more stolen bases. So no matter how good the catcher could be behind the plate with defensively and his arm, how much is that going to help them improve that lineup? Because they are losing Swanson, who Philly fans know. Wow.
They have Nimmo as a left fielder number 6.
They have Nimmo a left fielder number 6.
First of all, he's a center fielder, dumbass. I don't know if I'm allowed to curse on this.
Wow.
But that is...
Who is doing it? Sorry, guys. But that's
the shredder. Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I don't know if... I don't want to get your stream demonetized.
No, well, you can curse. Right.
I don't know if I'm
Wait, they got Joey Gallo up there?
Or something.
Wow.
Yeah, okay, well...
Yeah, that's sorry, guys.
Yeah,
that was
no wonder
stupid.
These people are... Oh, yeah. Nobody even knows who you are. Oh, Cameron Maven. Bro, you're a bum. No one knows who you are. Okay, yeah. Back to this, though.
Yeah, so, listen. There's one thing for sure. And the Phillies, one of them are going, hold on, where's this? Oh, there we go. Hello. All right. So the stream almost killed us again. So listen, I think the Phillies and the Mets are going to win this division. One of those two teams. I don't see how you can lose Freeman and Swanson, two guys that were key to winning the World Series in 2021. They're not there anymore. That can't just not hurt you. They can't always replace another guy that they trusted every day in the lineup with another rookie, and it's going to work out. We talked about this. Like, sooner or later, it's going to bite them in the ass, and it's not going to work out. And I think this is the time where Grissom, he might be a good player, but I don't think he's going to be at the level of Swanson. And if he's not, that's only going to hurt the Braves going forward. John said Nimmo can't hit. No, Nimmo can't hit. He can't run. At least steal bases. Nimmo can hit.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, I think right now, I mean, it comes to this, like I get it, last year Nimmo had a phenomenal season.
Yep. Contract year.
Contract year. I mean, defensively, that dude was on another planet. I mean, robbing Justin Turner of home runs and robbing, Hunter Renfroe of a double down the gap. Just
hey, Ken. Out. Sorry.
Yeah. So, I mean, Nimmo, another planet. Offensively, he swung the bat a little bit more, which, resulted in a little bit of a lower average, a little bit of a lower OBP. Strikeouts went up, walks went a little bit down, but he was getting on base. Yeah. He was a little bit more aggressive at the plate, which I'm not against. I guess it just comes to the argument if you're making a leadoff guy versus Nimmo Marte, but not to get on a whole, who should be a leadoff man rant. Yeah, I mean, Nimmo is Nimmo is definitely a Gold Glove, center fielder, and I wouldn't be surprised if he definitely wins one within the next 2-3 years. I mean, Nimmo defensively is dominant, elite. I mean,
John, I don't know. I don't know about that. Goofy player, but he is one that got an 8-year deal, which is shocking probably to everybody. But I mean, let's be honest, he was one of the better center fielders in the game, like all around. Like, yeah, he don't have the power, but what did he hit? 260 last year?
265.
Yeah, I mean, 265 is perfectly fine for a guy that's not a power guy, and he did a lot more things. On base percentage with Jews. He's a table setter.
His on base percentage since 2018 is like 385, yeah. And he's like I know he's higher than he's higher than Harper, and I think tied with Freeman in OBP. Yeah. I don't know. I have to look at it, but they did it. Actually, I think I may have the picture still. I'm going to share it. Let's talk about Mr. Smile, whatever his nickname is, Totter, whatever. So in terms of it, give me a sec. Oh, here it is. Yeah, so he's pretty much fourth in on-base percentage since the start of 2018.
There you go, and that's Trout.
398, which is pretty darn good. Obviously, Mike Trout, Juan Soto, Bryce Harper at 399, Nimmo at 398, tied with Freddie Freeman at 398 also. So, yeah, I mean, like I said, Nimmo's goal is getting on base, drawing those walks, getting hit by pitches. I say it, death, taxes, and Nimmo getting on base. And that's his job. I get it. Last year, he swung the bat more. He was a little bit more aggressive, which resulted in a lower average. His OPS isn't going to be high because he's not hitting home runs. He's not, he can hit you 10 home runs. I think last year he had 14, which was great. His OPS is going to be generated from doubles, and he has speed. He's capable of, getting triples. I wish he would steal more bases. That would be great, but he just doesn't. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting year for Nimmo. He's going to have a big year. Don't get me wrong. Do I think Nimmo's the best guy on the team? No. I would easily take a guy like Jeff McNeil if we're talking over contact, slapping the ball, OBP. I'm taking McNeil over Nimmo. Absolutely. I mean, I've made the argument in the past of McNeil being a leadoff hitter, but just his ability to hit the ball consistently. I want guys on base so he could advance and get more, drive in more runs. So, Jeff McNeil's elite. Yeah,
exactly. And listen, John, I know you keep on talking about Nimmo here, and you're not a fan of him. Listen, you're talking to somebody who wanted Trey Turner over Brandon Nimmo during the offseason. And I was going to put Turner in center field. I'm not the biggest fan of Brandon Nimmo, but to say that he's not a good player or he's not as good as you say, I did say that.
I can confirm.
I said, and I had conversations with Ken many times. Ken loves him some Nimmo. I don't like. Listen, analytics saved Brandon Nimmo's career defensively. He would have been at best a corner outfielder, an average corner outfielder, if it wasn't for analytics. Brandon Nimmo plays deep now because analytics says you suck going back on balls, so we're going to make you play deeper so you can get to those balls. It made him a better defensive player because he plays deeper. But Nimmo has no arm at all in center field. So any ball that gets through the hole, and you got a guy on first, he's going first to third automatically. You got a guy in second, ball up the middle. Nimmo's not that throwing a guy out at home.
That's true.
There's a pretty good chance.
That's true. I hit the John. I will agree with you on that. Jeff McNeil is a star. He does it all. I agree with you on that.
Yes.
He's elite.
Yeah. So
MVP. My MVP.
So Nimmo, again, Nimmo became a better defensive player because of the fact that analytics said play deeper. But a guy with no arm, it hurts him in other aspects of his defensive game. You'll see it. I'll bring it up. Trust me, I will bring it up during the game. When there's a ball up the middle, I guarantee you, that runner, I don't care if it's freaking the slowest guy known to man in the Major League Baseball, he will score from second because Nimmo has no arm, because he plays so deep.
I've read on Baseball Savant a lot of the defensive metrics favor Nimmo when it comes to sprint speed in the outfield. His ability to track a ball, make these diving catches, rob home runs. His arm strength is not very strong. He has the arm of a left fielder. Just to say it, I love Nimmo, but I'm going to say it. He has the arm of a left fielder. He's not a power guy. He doesn't have much power. He's not this huge muscle guy, and he doesn't have a strong arm. I mean, if I'm looking at guys like, I call me crazy, but I think I would argue Jeff McNeil may have a little bit of a stronger arm than Brandon Nimmo. He's a natural second baseman. He's played left and right in the past before, but listen, if we're looking at a guy like Conforto or Harper, kidding, their arms are much more superior than Nimmo. But yeah, that's the one, I guess, flaw I'll give Nimmo defensively is his arm. But he makes up for it in speed. He makes up for it in, alertness, his ability to track the ball. The defensive metrics love him. They do favor his arm, but it's hard to explain.
I don't see how the metrics do, because it makes no sense with that. But again, look, it's not saying Nimmo's a bad player, because he's not. I guess I still think it's insane that you give him an 8-year deal. But listen, not my money. The Mets wanted him back. Does he deserve an 8-year deal? You can question that.
5.
But I'm not. Yeah, and that's what we talked about. We were like, can you give Nimmo maybe a 6-year deal, the most? 8 years is a little excessive, I think. But again, and this is a guy who the only year of his career that stood healthy and played over 120 games was last year in a contract year. Oh, by the way. So are those nagging injuries that he somehow stayed away from last year, or didn't say that he had nagging injuries last year that kept him out of games through the years? But last year, because it was payday, he all of a sudden stayed healthy. Again, can that be a coincidence, or can that be a guy that says, I got to get this big contract? That little shoulder pinch that I have that might be a little discomfort that 2 years ago he would have stayed out of a game for a week or two. Now he played through. Let's see if he does that again. And let's be honest, and I think we all can agree, Nimmo's a fast runner, right? What does he need to do?
He needs to steal bases.
Correct. If he doesn't learn to steal bases with these new rules, he's never going to steal bases.
Yeah, and I think that's where it comes down to it is Nimmo, he has the speed, no doubt. He is, 98th and 99th percentile in sprint speed, according to Baseball Savant. He has the speed. Why don't they send him? Because he's probably going to freaking break his leg and tear every bone in his body or his neck. I don't know. He's had a dozen injuries over the years. But I don't know why they don't send him. And, if it comes to the point where Nimmo's just going to steal 2 bases next season, I'm making Starling Marte my leadoff guy.
Yes.
Because at least Marte will be able to steal.
Yes.
And this year, there's really no excuse. Besides the injuries, you have bigger bases. You have limitations on the pickoffs. That literally that gives every guy like Trey Turner and Starling Marte and whoever other fast guys there are in the league, that literally gives them the advantage and is literally telling them steal.
Exactly.
I wouldn't be surprised if stolen base numbers go up triple, quadruple than what it was in the past.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Nimmo's got to listen. I'm not saying he has to give me freaking 45 stolen bases, but give me 20, give me 25.
Yeah,
that could really come a long way. Nimmo gets on, he walks. Marte drives him in with the base hit, boom, and he has the speed where he's going from second to home on any ball, unless it's like really hard to the outfielder. But yeah,
exactly. And you know what? It's like with the stolen bases, it's interesting though, because like I said this the day we got Marte, Nimmo should be bat number 2. Nimmo's a guy who takes more pitches, takes more walks, works the count. That gives every opportunity for Starling Marte to steal more bases.
Yeah.
When Nimmo doesn't steal bases, he's basically, it feels like he's stationed in station, even though he has speed. If the ball's not, if the ball's not hit, you can't get a guy to run in scoring position because Nimmo is scared to steal second base, excuse me. I don't know why. Is it he's scared he's going to get hurt, or he's not good at reading pitchers' either pickoff moves or going to the plate? Well, guess what? Spring training, when Nimmo's on first base, I don't care. He better steal. Every single time he better go. Learn how to read the pitcher. That's it. Just learn. Give me 10 stolen bases. That's a hell of a lot more than 3 he had last year? Maybe. I think it was 2.
I think Alonso had more stolen bases than Nimmo, and Alonso had 5, and that was the most in his career.
That can't happen.
I mean, yeah, that's just kind of sad. I mean, as much as I love Big Meat Pete and his eliteness, yeah, you should have much more stolen bases than him. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I think even McNeil had more. And I mean, McNeil's also a guy who I think is capable of stealing more bases too. I mean, he has some speed. I mean, he's not like elite when it comes to speed, but double steal, he's in.
Yeah. All right, guys. So we spent about an hour and 15 minutes with you guys for the first live from Port St. Lucie of 2023.
Sir.
Once again, tomorrow is the intra-squad game that I'm not sure if it's going to be televised or on SNY's social media platforms. They're probably, if they're not going to have it on SNY's channel, they'll probably have it on their social media platform. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, just make sure you follow SNY, and you can probably follow the inter-squad game that way. Me and Hayden are going to be there tomorrow. We got an early morning to get there because you have to wait online like the old days to get tickets to the inter-squad game. You can't get them online. They're $10, and they're going to charity, the money. So that's always good because Steve Cohen's great. So tomorrow we will be vlogging. We will be going live. Hayden's channel, my channel. We're going to be going live before, and I'm assuming during and after the inter-squad game. So make sure you wake up if you're working. If you're home, check us out. We're going to be having a lot of content over the next couple of days. Saturday is the big day. That's the 7-line Autumn. 7-line, everybody, me, Hayden, and others. We'll be on the right field berm, having those rum buckets, and enjoying the Florida sun. Even though he's used to it, I'm not. But it's going to be a lot of good time. We're going to ask Met fans around the park questions that we have. I'm going to ask people about the Mets win total, see what they say. Hayden's going to ask a bunch of questions for his channel, my channel, our channel together at different times. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Easy with the beers? No. So with that said, guys, thank you for tuning in to another Spring Training Talk Live with myself and Hayden. First time ever together. History has been made in 2023. It should have been last year, but MLB decided to lock out the players, and we didn't get that opportunity. But now we're here. History has been made. Mets Talk with Hayden, talking Mets and Rob. We're ready to go for the 2023 season. Tomorrow, what time are we going to go live tomorrow? I don't think when we're online, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe we could. We'll see.
Maybe when we're walking in the stadium?
Yeah, probably.
All right, so when we're walking in, I'm assuming they're going to give us paper tickets since we're getting right up to the window?
I'd imagine it's probably going to be paper or little ticket stubs, old school. I like that.
All right, so we can put that on the wall. We can frame it maybe.
Yeah. Get it signed by some players.
Exactly. Maybe that'll be. You know what, guys? If they give a paper ticket and I get an autograph from a player, that'll be a giveaway. I'll do that for the subscribers and the members.
And maybe I'll sign it.
Hey,
that I think is.
I mean, who cares about the player, right?
The player.
Let's go, guys. So with that said, tune in tomorrow around 12:30 to 1 o'clock around that time. What's up? Yep, gotcha.
Yeah.
So make sure that you tune in tomorrow for the Inter-Squad game for the New York Mets. Check the SNY social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. They should be televising it on that. And that is the link to Hayden's channel.
Yes.
Subscribe, Hayden. Finish it up.
Yeah, everyone, please subscribe to my YouTube channel, Mets Talk with Hayden. The link is in the description right there. Please subscribe. Obviously, it's free. Like I said, there's not many things in life that are free. That is the one thing that's free. So please subscribe. It would make my day. And let's get on the road to 800 subscribers. I know we can get there. 1,000. I like that.
Let's go.
Subscribe. Mets Talk with Hayden. Same thing as similar thing to Rob. Live streams, videos, analysis, analytics, all of that great stuff. I know it says Mets Talk, but in reality, it's really all baseball talk at the end of the day. A lot of good live streams. But yeah, super excited for tomorrow. We got the Inter-Squad game. Gonna hang out, watch. Alonso, McNeil, Escobar. The prospects, all that great stuff. The pitching, and then obviously Saturday's game against the Miami Marlins, which will be the first spring training game to kick off 2023.
Yes.
I'm pumped. LFGM, let's ride, baby.
All right, guys. And code, I will not be at Sunday's game, but tomorrow's Inter-Squad and Saturday's game. So if you're going to spring training for the games on Friday or Saturday, look out for us. We'll be around. We'll be walking around the ballpark, asking everybody all the type of questions regarding the Mets. So with that said, guys, everybody have a great night. Baseball is back, baby. 2023 season. Hayden, Rob, see you tomorrow, guys. As always, Met fans, let's go Mets. Have a good night, guys.
Take care, y'all.
You'll find a Mets fan. Let's go. This is a Mets year. For all your Mets here, let's go.